Live! Right, is anyone here? I think we only have people at the moment. Oh no, live! We have live people. Members only mode is on. I think I've got the super chat super thing on. I don't know. Oh dear. Toggle timestamp. I don't know if I want to do that. Hey! Right. Can you hear me? Could someone who is a message can see and hear you? Thank you. Thanks, Mick. You know the drill. The first question I always ask.
Whoa.
YouTube has told me what they tell everyone.
Sorry. Sorry.
Got the support bubble here. Crimson
Sorry.
is helping me again.
Sorry.
Not quite sure what you're doing there.
Neither am I.
Right. Have you found the live? Bit of admin, folks. One moment. Have you found the live thing? Okay, that's the live thing. Click on that.
Click on this one.
Yep. So you're going to need to turn the sound off on your laptop, probably.
I have done.
They have done, right. If you scroll down a bit. Oh, this is weird. I'm pointing this way, but the camera's filming it that way, but it's actually ending up here. Bit blurry, you say? Oh no! Is the internet playing up again? Right? Can you see the chat? You've got the chat. Yes, you've got the chat. It is there.
Where is it?
It's there. That thing there. Yeah. That is the chat.
Oh, okay then.
Okay. Hello. So, first thing to mention is I've started working my way through the what's it called? Through the YouTube. What's it called? It's named after. It's from some kind of sport, I think, from overseas.
Rulebook.
Playbook. I'm following the YouTube playbook, and I've got a smudge on my glasses. Hang on. Dear me. So I'm following the YouTube playbook. This is the level of professionalism you can expect, folks. And my hair is everywhere. It's because it's the evening and it doesn't obey the brush. So, Mick, you've actually told your wife she has to watch me sit and drivel. Okay, fair enough. Good luck with that. So, yes, I'm following the YouTube playbook, and it recommends doing a number of things. So some people may have seen recently, I did a what does it mean to be a channel member video. One of the other things it says to do is to set up super chats and super stickers, which I kind of understand. In theory, I think you guys should see options for being able to do that. Not that I'm requesting anyone to, but I think there is an option.
There is.
That's the video. That's not live.
Oh, that's what happens when you click join.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So you can see Crimson's shoulder again. So Crimson is going to be writing down questions and passing them over to me. I want to try and keep them mostly Drukhari oriented, or at least Eldari oriented, or possibly at least stick to 40k. Let's face it, they could be about anything, couldn't they? So yes, doing the playbook. The other thing the playbook says is video chat should be for members. So I'm trying that tonight because the playbook says to try that. So trying that. Any other admin-y type things? Oh no. It's ruining the view. That's better. It got up there on its own. Okay, so hello. Right, I should probably 4:45 in, so I should probably start. I know not the post-it notes. I use those for work. They're ruddy everywhere. All you can see here is a sanitized no post-it zone. If I was to tilt the camera Post-it City. You want to see the wall in there? It's got my backlog sits underneath them. I get to tear one off when I've done it. Or they fall on the floor and get stuck on people's shoes. Things like Black Legion Terminators.
That was stuck to your t-shirt.
That was stuck to my t-shirt.
It was.
Superb.
Yeah.
Superb. It's quite low down the War of the 10 Legions list. Anyway, you aren't tuning in for a general drivel from myself. It's a very specific, focused Eldari / specifically Drukhari drivel. So, what am I going to ramble about? Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about but I haven't put the light on. That's why there's a problem. That's better. Well, it's better for me anyway. I don't know if it makes much difference to you guys, but I can see what I'm doing now. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about who the Drukhari are, how they came into being, why they do what they do, and also what they do, how I got into them, talk a little bit about my army. I'm also going to talk a little bit about this book. And I'm going to try and keep that nice and objective and factual, but I will almost inevitably fail because there are some things in this book I really like and some things that really annoy me. So if you're salt averse, you might want to skip that bit because I'm probably going to have a little bit of a rant, just a little bit of a one. So yeah, oi, you trying to size my ear or something? Ears that size. That's how big my ear is. I also used my Drukhari for this second time last Friday. So I've done a battle report on the YouTubes for that, and I might talk a little bit about that. I filmed the second one, which is going up relatively soon. I want to say Saturday, but that does kind of depend on my ability to control days, because this Saturday I'm going up to Winters. So I'm going to have to set it up in advance, down to Winters. I have to set it up in advance and make it all automagic to randomly happen, to very specifically happen at a specific predefined point. And it all depends on my associated level of competence at that. Oh God, we're still 8 minutes in and I haven't started talking about the Drukhari yet. So, Drukhari. Well, the Eldari are an ancient race. They were around for a long time. They had a huge galactic... What's the bubble dog? A huge galactic... She's possibly noticed Lemmy.
Oh, Lemmy has learnt to bark. Maybe.
Could be either. So the Drukhari Empire stretched all across the galaxy. They were at the absolute height of their existence. Now, the thing about Eldari minds and souls is they are, even if you're being objective, they are massively more sophisticated and complex and intricate and just deeper than any of the other races to come since. Certainly more so than the Monkey or the Tau or whatever the Eldar call them. I haven't looked that up. They are luminous beings, and they have the capacity to experience everything more deeply than others. And I won't talk about the Azurani too much. I'll try not to. But the reason the Azurani have aspects and paths and such things are to try and control the just intense brain power that they have, because they can to see the scope of everything and every tiny little detail. And the Azurani focus their minds in, and they get to obsess about a little tiny bit, and then they become the masters of that little tiny bit, Then they say, right, done that, forget that. Next tiny little bit, I'm going to know the thing about. The original Eldari were very free and wild. And as their dominance of the galaxy was what it was, they became more and more indulgent to their every desire and whim, which led to things like pleasure cults, where they would indulge in any senses, any experiences that they chose to, that they desired. There will be many that would be artistic and creative, but also many that explored the cruel and sadistic side of their nature. And Eldari society became more and more debauched. And the ones who would eventually become the Azurani saw this happen. Well, there's a few different ones. A whole bunch of the Eldar saw that something bad was about to happen. And the first people to disappear from the Eldar homeworlds were the Exodites. And they went as far away as they ruddy could to live on planets full of dinosaurs and live the hard existence. And all their effort and energy and focus would be spent on surviving. Later on, others decided to build massive spaceships and fill them full of like-minded people and just fly off into the distance. Spaceships the size of planets. Spaceship the size of a planet, and they asked me to pick up a piece of paper. Random. And those guys were the forerunners of the Azurani, many of whom were seers and foresaw galactic calamity on an apocalyptic scale. And so a lot of those built craft worlds and fled. And a lot of them also didn't. The Eldar have always got about the galaxy using the webway. Now, they didn't build the webway, but they are the masters of it. It's unclear from the narrative whether they inherited it, were given it, or just found it. But it's a huge interlinked network of other dimensional tunnels that then rejoin the material world at various points. And when we say tunnels, it's not sort of like the Channel Tunnel or the Mersey Tunnel, where it's a few cars wide. Some of them are that wide and they can only take personnel. Some of them are the width of cathedrals or even cities. And within that, there are nodes. And those nodes can be massive. And a lot of because the Eldari at the time, they inhabited all of this network, this webway. So there were as many Eldar in real space, as many, but there were significant numbers of Eldar in webway space as in real space. So all the ones who stayed on the planets, the ones who didn't go, oh, the end's coming, and leg it, they became more and more debauched. Blood would run in the streets. And with the Eldar souls being incredibly complex and incredibly deep, an Eldar soul would exist after being transferred to the warp. A human soul, a monkey soul, is a very sort of thing. It passes into the warp and then it just dissipates. It doesn't remain whole. Its energy, its emotions, it just dissipates into the background chaos of the warp. An Eldari soul maintains a lot of its integrity and remains a conscious thing. And the souls of all these massively messed up, debauched Eldar started to coalesce over thousands of years. And then all of a sudden, the energy buildup achieved sentience, and bang, the Chaos God Slanesh was born. The Dark Prince, or as the Eldari refer to him, she who thirsts. Him, her, it's both. And the birth of Slaanesh tore a massive hole in real space that emanated wide across the galaxy and gobbled up huge amounts of Eldar planets. And even Exodites who hadn't gone far enough, craft worlds that hadn't flown far enough away from the core worlds, they were all wiped out in an instant in the birth of Slaanesh. And Slaanesh was glutted on these billions of souls. And as Soft Wool is quite rightly pointing out, at the same time, Slaanesh consumed the Eldari gods. Other than Kegara, the laughing god, who hid in the webway, and Kilar Menshakane, who was strong enough only to be shattered rather than destroyed. And fragments of Kilar Menshakane settled in the surviving craft worlds. And those elements then grew into the avatars of Kane, which is totally where the Necrons ripped off the idea for Catan shards. Now, the Eldar do have another god, who is the god of the dead, who was never a conscious god back in the day. I think I've got that right. But it was always foretold that Inyed, the god of the dead, would wake up at the end of times when all the Eldar passed on, and the god of the dead became the entirety of all the Eldari souls, and Inyed would then awake. And obviously, over time, this has changed to be sort of, will wake and fight and defeat Slaanesh. So as it stands right now, I'll say right now, the Inari is a whole other ramble. So I'll leave that sort of sprinkling of Ynnari dust for another time. So yeah, the gods dead, apart from the one who hid in the webway. Good old laughing god. Gotta love the laughing god. And equally, the Eldari who were in the webway. Now, the webway got massively messed up by the birth of Slaanesh. Huge chunks of it became exposed to the warp, big rents caused in it, but bits of it survived. And a lot of what the Eldari do today is working out which bits of the webway can still be used and trying to find their way around with the bits that are left, which is one of the reasons why you see it's one of the reasons why they're more. That was a surprise. Why they're more prevalent in real space. And as Jamie is pointing out, there is what now. My lore is not too hot on this, so I'm not going to talk about this a lot. But there's supposedly one of the Eldari gods in a cage, who Nurgle loves to sort of poke him with a stick. I think that's the technical term for the Eldar mythology. So all of the Eldari that were in the webway are what became the Drukhari. They were the arena combatants, the pleasure cultists, the insane experimenters and flesh smiths, and you might expect some of them to have gone, "Oh no, what have we done? This is awful. We shall repent." But they basically turned around and went, "Bothered? Okay, we've created a chaos god. Yeah, we're all right. Right, let's keep doing our thing." So you fast forward a little bit to the Drukhari, and all the different Eldar have had to come up with their own way of protecting their souls from She Who Thirsts. Because when an Eldar passes on into the warp, Slaanesh goes, "Woo, kibbles," and starts pulling it to bits, or nibbling on it, or draining the life essence out of it, and all that kind of stuff. What's really weird is I can just see out the corner of my eye Crimson's screen, which is playing back me on it, and there's about a 5-second lag.
I have to keep refreshing it, and then it goes back to normal. It's a bit slow.
Yeah. Okay, in fact, one moment. Is thirsty work? Still no sign of a sponsorship deal. Who'd have thought it? So all the different Eldar have had to come up with their own ways of not being brutally torn apart by Slaanesh upon their death. The Asuryani have their spirit stones that traps their spirit so it doesn't go into the warp, and they then place it in the Infinity Circuit, which is basically a giant spirit stone, which is kind of like the waiting room for the afterlife. It's no, don't go down the lights, come over here and sit there until we can work out how to kill that thing. The Harlequins who serve Kegara, their souls don't go to Slaanesh, they go automatically to Kegara, apart from one Harlequin who plays the part of Slaanesh in all their plays, and Slaanesh and Kegara get to fight over their soul when they die. So taking on the role of a solitaire is a very perilous thing for an Eldari to do. I digress. The Drukhari, sorry, my brain went into slow-mo there. What they found is by living in the webway, they can be largely safe from the predations of Slaanesh. Obviously, if they die, their souls will pass into the warp. But what they have found is that whilst they stay safe, their souls start to erode and they start to become shells and husks of themselves. They refer to it as the soul sickness, and they start to get eaten away and shriveled, and their life essence just shrinks in them. They become practically soulless, shriveled beings, and their way of, and one of the things they discovered is that the pain and suffering of those around them feed their souls and stave off the soul hunger from Slaanesh, the soul sickness. So the longer and more depraved excruciation they perform on their victims, the better they feel. The more restored their souls get, the more perky they are, the more energized. So their whole society is pretty much based around capturing slaves and victims from real space and slowly torturing them to death. And that, in turn, keeps their souls alive and keeps them safe from Slaanesh. So that's their thing. That's why they're such nasty people. They always say in the narratives, they say the Eldar or the thin dark ones, the thin depraved ones, the thin evil ones, they came in the night. They slew the lucky ones, the unlucky ones they took alive. So in that, that's their raison d'etre. They need people to torture a lot. So let's talk about the structure of the Drukhari in Khormoror itself, because Khormoror is a massive, massive, massive. Yes, you are right, Blindside. That is messed up. It really is messed up. That's why the galaxy would be far better off. They were all dead. Far better off. That's the Imperial view. Kill them. But there are millions of these. There are millions and millions of these, and at any given point in time, there will simultaneously be thousands of real space raids going on because they need the volume of captives. They need the volume of victims. And in Khormoror itself, life is brutal and savage and depraved, and only the strong survive. So what a lot of them do is they band together and form cabals, basically gangs. You join a cabal, you have the protection of the cabal, and not dissimilar to the similar concept today, except that it's all so much more brutal in Qumran. Those who aren't a member of a cabal or a cult or a coven, I'll come on to those in a minute, have a very short life expectancy, a very short survival prospect. And the cabals all fight for territory. They fight against each other. It's an environment where cruelty and brutality are rife and resources are scarce. So the rivalry between them is intense. They also they're also always vying for position. And hi, Adrian. They're always vying for position and power and prominence. So they don't just have to fear other cabals; they have to fear those from within their cabal who think they can advance at the expense of someone else. That's why the Archons and Dracons, the leaders of the cabals, they rarely trust their Cabalite warriors. They often hire non-Eldari bodyguards who they can trust more to keep them safe. The cults are the arena champions. They are the ones who fight any creature, any foe in the arena for the entertainment and bloodlust of the crowd. These arenas, they aren't just, as we might imagine, the Roman Colosseum. These arenas could be the size of cities, and the viewing places are sort of like buildings inside it that are sort of like translucent crystal, and they can see out, and their viewing is sort of safe. It's not all a sort of Colosseum style arena. These can be incredibly complex, and these love to fight in order to fight for the crowd and to slay. And they are the witch cults, and they are gladiatorial supremacists. A lot of them will fly bikes or skyboards, like hoverboards. So a little bit of Back to the Future, but turned up to evil. And one of the things they love to do is bring in captives and put them in the arena and fight them. Things like gene stealers, space marines, orcs, all sorts of bizarre and unusual creatures are fair game and entertainment for the crowd. So these arenas are glorious and incredibly bloody. And all the ones that fight in them are incredibly skilled. They're the main form of defense. They tend not to be very well armored. They tend to wear very light witch suits. The principle they work on is the best form of defense is not being there when the blow lands. That's why, rules thing, the witches all get 4+ invulnerable save in close combat. They're just getting out of the way. It's like, whoa. They're sort of they're matrixing that stuff, except not with bullets. And then you have the covens, the homunculus covens. Now, these are your atypical evil genius source scientists who believe that the entire custodes in the arena. That gives me an idea. Park idea for now. They are the sort of atypical mad scientists. They believe the entire or all of real space is their playground and their plaything, and they consider nothing taboo and off limits when it comes to unlocking the the secrets of creation. They just think that is theirs to do and to do. Hello. To do with what they want. And their skills are very highly prized in Cormorant because they do a lot of body modifications. They produce a lot of toxins, a lot of horrible, wicked weaponry and devices of torture. So they ply their trade with great success in the Dark City. Are their souls protected just by attending the games? Are they protected? I don't think they're protected. And I don't think they gain any life essence by watching the games. I think it's only the Eldar that's actually inflicting it, is the one that's feasting on it. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, the Covens are the mad scientists. They're the flesh smiths. And they're followed around by their servants, the Racks, who hope at some point to be homunculi themselves. They're apprentices, if you like. They put them through a lot of body modification, multiple limbs, prehensile tails, implements, sewn into the flesh, and all the toys. So those are the inhabitants of Cormorant. They are indulging their desires and trying to stave off the predation of she who thirsts. Right. What did I say was next? I've rambled enough about that. Any questions about that side of things?
Some statements, no questions, really.
Let me consult. Things. Okay, no questions. Thank you, Crimson. I appreciate a lot of you watching this. I sat painting, so I'm just listening to, I was going to say, the dulcet sounds of my voice, my dulcet tones, listening to my Irish Scouse accent. So how did I get into Dark Eldar, and what is my army like? Well, I got into Dark Eldar because everyone... Oh, who is Vect? Okay, that's a good question. Azimul Vect is the leader of the biggest cabal in Cormorant. The cabal, the Black Heart. He basically runs everything. He is supremely powerful. No other cabal is as powerful as the Black Heart, and he rules it with an iron fist. He rules Cormorant. Nothing happens without his say-so. Many, many, many people have made a move on his position. They're all dead. All of them. Everyone. Or they were rendered down into their component parts, or they were turned into torture devices by the homunculi, all sorts of stuff. Azimul Vect. Back in the day, he used to have a model. It used to be his own raider with loads of gunners and things on it that would sort of fly at you. It was as tough as a Land Raider. Everything else was made out of cardboard, and you could shoot it out the air with a pop gun. Azimul Vect, you need to smack him with las cannons again and again and again and again to bring him down. Great days. Great days. One moment. Still no sponsorship deal. So yeah, obviously I'm me, so I got into Dark Eldar because I have always loved Dark Eldar. I started building up. Even before it was a thing in the codices, I had in my original army, before homunculi covens were a thing. They were sort of like paid servants of the cabals back then. But I created, what were they? The Cabal of the Bleeding Moon and the Cult of the Frozen Heart. They were my two. So my warriors, they had white helmets, the moon, and their armor was sprayed black dry brushed white and then soaked in red ink, so it looked like there was sort of dark armor soaked in gore. And the idea was it looked like the moon had bled onto the armor. They were all right. They weren't great. The idea with the Frozen Heart cult witch cult was they had very, very, very grey, pallid skin. In reality, they looked like they looked like a submarine. They were sort of military grey, or possibly ocean grey. I'm not sure. With blue afros, not afros. What they called swirly hair things, mohawks. Hey, she's more than just admin. Yeah, and then GW in around about, I want to say 2008-ish, 2007, 2008-ish, they brought out the new Drukhari line, which is most of the current Drukhari line. And oh my God, they're gorgeous. They were the nicest models they'd released, since like ever. And at that point, I looked at my old models who were stood like this. And with hairdos that were heavier than their torsos. And I thought, yeah, time to put you in a box. So I said, right, okay, I'm definitely going to do a new Drukhari army, but it all depends when I do it. And I started it probably towards the end of 7th edition, and I worked out what I wanted to have. I thought, I want, now that they're a thing, I want to cut a cult, a cabal, and a coven. And I got about as far as painting up the racks and the homunculi before I got sidetracked onto another project. I think it was my AdMech I got sidetracked onto. In fact, no, I remember what it was. It was Mars 741, the original game I had with the Claw. It was all the prep for that I got sidetracked onto. And then immediately after that was when I first started gaming with Winters. And then ever since then, it's been different projects. So speaking of which, I planned my current army in 8th ed on about chapter approved, I want to say 18. Oh, right. Okay. The other creatures that ally with them. Yeah. Okay. I'll come on to that in just a little while. Try not to forget that. And I decided I was going to build a 2,000 point army, and I was going to have a cult, a coven, and a cabal. Because in the 8th ed codex, when they introduced the concepts of these, because before that it was all just Drukhari, and it was in 8th ed where they started saying, actually, okay, so Space Marines, this is what your Blood Angels do, this is what your Ultramarines do, this is what this dynasty of Necrons does. And then when they came to the Drukhari, they said, okay, well, this is what your Cabal of the Black Heart does, this is what your Cabal of the Flayed Skull does, this is what your Coven of the Red Grief does, etc., etc., etc. Cult of the Red Grief. But 8th ed was the addition of everything in a detachment has to have the same keyword, otherwise you can't have the benefits. You have to have, your army had to be battle forged and have all the different things in it. So I thought, right, okay, I'm going to do 3 patrols of these. And then in that codex, they actually brought out a thing that said, if you have multiple patrols, you get the same or practically the same command benefits as if you'd taken a battalion. Because in 8th ed, you had to have the formations to get your command points. So they said, okay, well, we're going to do this thing and we'll call it a Drukhari Real Space Raid, or whatever. It had a name. I can't remember it. And if you have 3 patrols, you get a bunch of command points. If you have 6, you get an extra bunch. I was like, right, okay. And so I chose the Cabal of the Flayed Skull, the Court of the Red Grief, and Prophets of the Flesh. I love these guys so much. And I did it based on the rule of cool. I picked models that I wanted to paint. I picked schemes that I wanted to paint. I did like the idea of Blackheart and Cult of Strife, because they're the Cult of Strife is the witch cult with the Lilith Hairspecs runs. That is, they're very closely aligned to the Cabal of the Blackheart, and they have practically the same color scheme. So they work very nicely on the table together, army-wise. But they look like a real pain to paint. Lots and lots of edge highlighting. And I am terrible at that. Truly, truly terrible at it. And moreover, it annoys me. I get very little pleasure out of painting when I have to do lots of edge highlighting. So I chose schemes where I wouldn't have to do that. So my rule of cool ruled out a lot of things that were basically very dark armor with lots of stark, sharp edge highlights. So the Cabal of the Flayed Skull, and this was around about the same time as contrast paints. So I used contrast paints on them, which worked very, very nicely. The Cabal of the Flayed Skull, they are the second biggest Cabal in Cormoran, and they own a fortress called... One moment. It's honestly the dog barking. It's not that I can't remember what it's called. That's not the right page. One moment, caller. Prophets of Faith, Twilight Raiders, Genesis and Evil, Spar of the Black Heart. That's not the right page either. I am professional. The Poison Crown. In many ways, you'd think I'd have written that down. Called the Poison Crown, which is a massive spire complex, very top of Cormoran, and it is completely resplendent with spires and grav hooks and space docks, and they consider themselves to be Lords of the Skies, and
and you wanted to remember.
As a result, they what's my favorite Cabal lore wise? I've got to go for the Flayed Skull, which is the one I'm talking about now, because not only did the paint scheme speak to me, the lore spoke to me as well. I hadn't done anything wrong. LORE, not LAW. The lore didn't have to speak to me, but the lore spoke to me. The Poison Crown does sound like a Drukhari pub, which is kind of basically what it is. And the fact that they have huge numbers of raiders and aircraft, and the likes of Reavers and Hellions just flock to them because it's all aerial combat, and that's what they live for. So they're my favorite. They're my favorite. And from a codex point of view, they get some really nice stuff. They their benefits, which I think really fit nicely with their narrative, is if it's a flying unit or a unit that's embarked upon a flying unit, they, whenever they shoot, the target does not get the benefit of light cover if they have it. Whoop! Which I like the fact that they're sort of flying and jinking to the extent that they can get the right angles of fire to bypass where people are cowering. So yeah, I like that. They also get extra move, so it can be really confusing when you go, okay, I've got Raiders and I've got Venoms, and they move 14 and they move 16. Right, okay, so I've got Witch Raiders and Venoms, they move 14 and 16, and I've got Cabal of the Flayed Skull, so that gets a +2, so that moves us an 18, and that's a 16, but they're the same. Gets me very confused. Very, very confused.
You're laughing at yourself?
Yes.
Good.
I'm both at myself and to myself. Thank you very much.
Just checking.
She doesn't watch the stuff. It's a regular occurrence. Now she's drawing on me.
Yeah, a bit.
See what I have to put up with. So I'm going to pause in my in that particular part of the ramble and change subject. So, can you please talk about the other creatures and how they ally with the Drukhari, the Slith, the Urgle, and others? The Slith are just huge reptilian mercenaries, and they are very. Some might call them stoic, others might call them slow. I like to think of them a little bit like, just from a mannerisms point of view, a bit like the Ents in Lord of the Rings. They're just very purposeful about everything they do. And they are fiercely loyal to whom they have sworn their loyalty, which makes them excellent bodyguards. And they get kitted out with some of the best poison weaponry in Cormorant by their lords, and they will throw themselves in front of their lords to save them. Now, back in the day, the Court of the Archon, which is a menagerie of all of the which is a brain, which is all his weird retainers. They're almost exclusively non-Eldari. That's why they go so well. That's right. Yes, and in the Court of the Archon, they used to be individual characters, which there was the 8th ed rules didn't work terribly well with. So the Slith could be toughness 5, strength 5, because they were they had 2 wounds, I think. Whereas the other things, the Medusa and such, were little and tiny and 3 wounds. But now they've made them all into one unit. One of the things they've done is not 3 wounds, toughness 3. They made them all toughness 3, which irks me because the Slith are big and massive, and they've now got the same toughness as the puny little Liliman Eldar poison crafter. But they have at least, and they've all got 3 wounds. So the Slith is as easy to kill as the tiny little poison mistress, except for the fact that they have given the Slith effectively feel no pain, which kind of balances that out. I can forget. It's just indicative of bending the stats to gain balance rather than being representative of the story. But yeah, I'll not pour salt on that particular bit just yet. One of the ones I particularly like were the Medusa. The Medusa are weird creatures who actually live in the webway, and when the Drukhari can shackle them, that's why the models are in chains. They can capture them, and what they basically do is they burn the souls out of the things that they look at, and they sort of absorb them, kind of like similar to a photograph taking a light and having an image of it. They sort of burn souls inwards, and they take something of the souls, and they're constantly growing this big brain matter behind them of all the things that they've sort of eaten and consumed. And the Archon will just sort of go, I want to know how to kill that. Have a look at them. And the Medusa, there's no stats for this, unfortunately, in the game, but the Medusa will use its eye burst, it'll have a look at it, it'll burn its soul away, then it'll just grow a new piece of brain that's got all the information in, and the Archon will go, thank you. But that's just a narrative thing. There's no representation. Oh, my connection's unstable.
Is it?
A thing just said my connection was unstable. Are you there, folks, still? Someone speak to me. Anyone? It says I'm still streaming. Yes, but I'm breaking and buffering. I'm stopping. Stopped and I'm back. Okay. Must have just been a bit of a glitch. My Wi-Fi has been a pain recently. Still here. Did you get the bit about me eating the brain? Yeah. So
Right.
the Medusa, the Archon will try putting a lobster on my head. No.
Go on.
Not today.
Oh no, go on. No, I've not seen it. Go on.
No.
Oh please.
Not today.
That's just mean.
Yes.
Do it.
Nope.
Do it.
Nope.
Do it.
No. Sure, Shadman. Today is not a lobster day.
Go on. Yes, you see, that's what people want to see. Come on. People want to see it.
And all the people who aren't members are watching this going, what on earth are they talking about?
Exactly. So do it. Do it for the viewers.
We're talking about
Drukhari. It. Look, Jamie, well done. Do it. Come on.
Shush.
Oh, go on.
Shush.
Mick. Oh, go on.
It's just absolutely not happening now.
Please.
No ways it's happening.
You see, Jamie, Mick, bring back the lobster. Hashtag bring back the lobster.
Admin.
Yes.
Right, please.
Come on, do it. I'd get it down, but I'm not tall enough, guys. I'm not tall enough to get it. Could stand on a chair. Do it, do it, do it. Jamie's really up for it. Look at that.
I don't care. It's definitely not happening now.
Why?
I'm moving on. So yeah, the Archon eats the brain of the Medusa to learn all about the thing. Nice. She's staring at me. There's an atmosphere now. Stop that. The lobster will return, but it is not a lobster day. It is not. I am not a performing monkey.
Oh, look, you see?
I am not a
For us, please.
I'm not a performing monkey who will put a lobster on my head on demand.
Shall I put the lobster on your head?
No. No.
Jamie is desperate for you to do this. Soft Wool is gagging for it. Come on.
This is a Drukhari ramble, not a lobster ramble. Please stop trying to lobsterify it. And I'm talking to all of yous. So my witch cult is the cult of the Red Grief. And I think they, despite, as well as having an amazing colour scheme, which is all sort of red and black and bright blue hair, which I absolutely love. If you're writing, put the lobster on your head on a piece of paper. Just don't, okay? Stop it now.
I've never seen it.
Stop it now. I can direct you to the video that it's on. Right. Yes, they are aerial acrobatists. Yeah, aerial acrobatists. Maybe at the end if you're all good. I've lost my flow now. What was even? Look, the viewing numbers have dropped off by like 30.
Because she won't do the lobster.
It really isn't.
It is.
So yeah, the cult I opted for are the cult of the Red Grief with their neon blue haircuts and their cool red and black witch suits, which I think are really funky. The thing I like most about those guys is they live in the air. they don't set foot on the ground. That's one of the reasons why they hang out so much with the cabal of the Flayed Skull. They only ever set foot on the ground to deliver the killing blow. So they have, and then they're straight back into the transports. They've got a really nice rule where instead of making a consolidation rule, they can re-embark on a transport. So I sort of have this mental image of them flying on their raiders, and then everyone jumps off, kills something, then jumps back on, and the raider carries on flying off. Of course, game-wise, it's not terribly practical because the raider can't then fly off somewhere else. You just get back on it, and then it gets shot down the next turn or punched to death by the survivors from the fight. But yeah, I think they're really cool. What else do I have? And I've got the Prophets of Flesh, and that's mainly because I really like I like the color scheme. I think it's the archetypal homunculi coven color scheme with the sort of really the pallid flesh and the green ichor in the various cylinders and pipes and weapons and things. Your screen hasn't frozen. I have no idea what I'm saying. The other thing you have in Cormorant is you have what they've called in the new codex. They've called them Blades for Hire, which are they're essentially sort of cell swords, and they've all got quite an interesting and funky background story. The incubi, especially, they're kind of like an aspect warrior cult. They are the masters of decapitation, and they will sell their services to the highest bidder in Cormorant, and they are incredibly rich as a result because their skills are massively in demand. The only way someone can become one of the incubi is by killing an incubi and stealing their suit. But not only that, they then have to go and find an Azurani aspect warrior, kill them, and take their soul stone, so they can then later break it in half and mount it in their new suit of armor. Now, I'm sure if you do the stats on that, there is that means the number of incubi can only ever get smaller. So there must be more to it than that. There must be a way they can acquire new suits and so on. But yeah, that's the incubi. The Scourges. Now, the Scourges are very interesting. They're kind of like the postman of Cormorant. There isn't a technology that they use that is used in the Dark City that can't be subverted. The only way to pass a message that you know has been interfered with or read or sort of tinkered with is to get a Scourge to hand it to the recipients. And what they often do is they lace the messages with contact venom that they know only the recipient has the anti-venom to, in theory. And as a result, the Scourges are massively protected in Cormorant on pain of death. The penalty is death for interfering with a Scourge, for killing a Scourge. But as a result, these guys can afford the very, very best weapons, and they come to any fight massively tooled up, whether it's shard carbines, which are the best splinter weapons, or they're some of the heavier weapons. Now, the way that someone becomes a Scourge is they pay homunculi for the body modifications to graft the wings onto their skeletons. And they do other things like hollowing out their bones to make them lighter, and all sorts of excruciating processes they have to go through. And then they have to, whilst they're breaking into their new and bloodied wings, they have to fly from the pits of the homunculi labs to the spires at the top, and not get killed en route by gang warfare, reaver bikes, and all the other nasties that exist in Cormorant. If they make it to the top, they can join the Scourge pack and become a Scourge. Now, the other really interesting ones are the Mandrakes. Now, the Mandrakes don't live in Cormorant. They live in what is effectively a shadow dimension. And these guys are incredibly scary to the Drukhari because they come from the shadows. They so you can in theory be assassinated by a Mandrake anywhere, because they just step out of your shadow, or they put their claw through your shadow and attack you. They sell their services for the most bizarre things, like I don't know, the last breath of an Archon, or the soul of a or whatever. And the anyone who tries to cheat the Mandrakes out of their prize ends up entirely and completely dead. There's nowhere they can hide. There's no amount of bodyguards that that can defend you from them, because they can just turn up and come through your shadow and kill you. So yeah, they are to be feared and always to be paid, unless you're out of your mind. So those are the mercenary types. So let's talk about what's the thing between Fabius Bile and the homunculi. I don't know. I think this. They're rivals, effectively. They do the same thing as each other. They want to unlock the secrets of creation. They want to unlock genetics and some of the more ephemeral things. I am not certain. It's possibly in some of the books where they hook up and share the same goals, which might make them allies of convenience, or it might just make them. It might just make them. Come on, brain. Might make them allies of convenience, or it might make them rivals. It might make them rivals. Yeah. So unfortunately, that's all I know about Fabius and the homunculi. It's something I will have to look into. Will, thank you very much for your donation. That is massively appreciated.
Oh, I was just doing it.
Okay. Where does all your knowledge come from? Have you read lots of the Black Library books? I've read a fair number of the Black Library books. Much of it is from some of the older codices that really used to have lots and lots of information in them. They used to be really thick with with lore and narrative and things that tell you how the armies are structured. And now it's all, I mean, there's some nice stuff in this. There's about things I've said tonight have come from here. The clarification on the excruciation, feeding their souls, came from here. But there's what, maybe 6 pages on general lore. There's some specific stuff about the individual cults and covens. Back in the day, the book would be thick. It'd be absolutely thick with it. So a lot of it's from that. A lot of it's from Black Library books. And I tend to find when I'm really engaged in something, the information sticks in my mind. Or it sticks close enough in my mind that when I try and remember it, me to want to go and look it up. I also find the Black Library audiobooks are very good because I absorb a lot when I listen to things, because I will often listen to them again and again and again and again. It's why I can quote a lot of sitcoms from start to finish, because I've watched them and listened to them so many times. Okay, so let's talk about this book a bit more. So there are some things in here I like, and there are some things in here I don't. One of the things that instantly hit me in the face when I saw it was they have done what I had been begging them to do for years, and they have changed the carrying capacity of the Raider and the Venom to 11 models and 6 models, respectively, because the minimum unit sizes were always 5 or 10, and it was impossible to... thank you. On there, comes out in a bit. It was impossible. So, for example, I have a unit of 10 witches and I have a succubus. It's like, okay, so these witches don't set foot on the ground except to deliver the killing blow. So I'm absolutely not going to put I'm not going to have a unit of 10 witches in the Raider and then a succubus on foot on the floor. Right, the succubus needs her own Raider. Okay, can I put a coterie in there with her? No, you can't, because the minimum size is 5. Right, so I can't put her elite witches because the unit size is too small. It would be too small. Right, yeah, okay. The same with the Cabals. You have, similar to Space Marines, all of the weapon options come at unit size of 10. So unless you want to drop all of the purpose of the unit, you can't put a character in. Now, I get that they are encouraging you to have to take the Archon separately with the Cult of the Archon, and I have no problem with that. That is what I do anyway. It's really difficult to build your army, especially when these are, it's not like an Imperial Guard transport where there are 10 seats, and that's it. These are flying craft that they just hang on to. I was very pleased with that, and part of it was from a narrative perspective, but I guess a significant part of that is from a game playing and ease of army listing perspective. I liked the fact that they've made the Court of the Archon a unit rather than individual characters that you then don't have to pay slots for. It does make it easy to reflect the fact that these are a unit that hang around with the Archon, and they've given them some bonuses and so on. I've already mentioned I'm not keen on the fact they've dropped the toughness of the Slith, but I get why from that point of view. They've got some lovely little nuggets with some of the I know it's 12 cents in the Chimera. It was a bad example, John. It was a bad example. I knew it as I was saying it. So witch cults. Cult of the Red Grief. You get to reroll charge rolls with units with this obsession. Brilliant. That's really characterful because these are zoom in close, do the fighting, get back in the transport, get gone. +2 to advance rolls for this unit. Not sure about that because they spend most of the time in transport, so why? And then the other units you're going to apply to are bikes and skyboards. Can you really advance better because they're athletic? Don't know. Maybe they just soup up their engine fuel or whatever. Yeah, okay, I can kind of buy that. And then the one that my opinion on is very mixed and has changed, and this sort of sums up a number of my thoughts on the Codex and Ninth Ed in general, is the Warlord trait Hyper Swift Reflexes. So it always was Hyper Swift Reflexes, but it used to add 1 to the Witch's Invulnerable Save, making it 3+ in close combat. Which was, it's just kind of gross, but it made sense. And on here, it says it's now changed to each time a melee attack is made against this Warlord, on a modified hit roll of 1, 2, or 3, the attack fails, irrespective of any ability that the weapon or model making the attack may have. And I read that and I thought, oh no, that's really good. That's really good. That's rather than making the dodge better, this is just making it harder to hit. And I thought, yeah, that's great. I like that. And then I played a game with it. And the reality of that is, what you see, I looked at that and thought, oh, what they're doing here is what they really want to do is say -2 to hit. But they can't say -2 to hit because they have a game balancing mechanic that says pluses and minuses cap out at 1. So they're trying to bend their own mechanic. They're trying to get around their own mechanic and bend it out of shape. Which makes me think, oh, okay, they're already this far in trying to get around the restrictions they put in place. But then I thought about it some more and thought, actually, so the people who are going to be penalized by this are the better combatants. So a guardsman will still hit them just as easily as they did before on a 4+. Whereas a Space Marine captain will now find it too harder to hit them. But a Space Marine captain with a chainsword will find it equally as hard as a Space Marine captain with a chain fist, or power fist, who should find it harder anyway. So it's counterintuitive, narratively speaking, in that the better opponents have no better odds of hitting than the worse opponents. And that, now I've reached that conclusion, that doesn't sit right with me. I don't like that anymore. What other things have they done? So I'm going to talk about the I haven't talked about the real space raid. So the way they've changed that in this edition is any patrols that you take have a 0 command point cost as long as the army only contains patrols. So that's really cool. So there's none of this. You must have 3 or 6. It's if every detachment is a patrol, they cost no command points. So I like the idea, because the reason why these guys band together, they are mortal enemies in Cormoror, but that's all put aside where they want to share in the same. They have a common goal in acquiring more captives, and they can agree to do that together. So I like sorry, I'm struggling a bit, guys. I like that. I like that they've curved some of the limits on that, so you can scale it yourself. They've also come up with this notion of a real space raid detachment, where it doesn't have to be patrols. It can be one detachment. So it could be a battalion, it could be a brigade, as long as you've got a homunculus, an archon, and a succubus, and one troop unit, and a unit of Cabalite warriors, and a unit of witches, and a unit of racks. So that basically means if you've got one of each, You can have a big battalion with them all in, which gives you more flexibility around gives you more flexibility around the elites and the fast attacks and all that good stuff. You can put it all into one pot, and it means that the Archon gets a. I like the fact that the Archon becomes the mastermind of the real space raid, and they have then an aura buff that any core unit in the battalion in the detachment can use, which I like. So, noise outside. I think we had a fox in the garden the other day. There was all sorts of shenanigans going on. Foxes. Don't know how it got eaten. Maybe it wasn't a fox. Maybe it was a starling. Who knows? That's not a fox either. That's a leperatsu.
It's going to eat the fox. She thinks.
She thinks she's going to eat the fox, yeah. Do I think the similar rule should apply to the orcs? I absolutely think the similar rule should apply to the orcs. I had great high hopes of the 8th Ed Orc Codex to apply that rule to it. Never didn't. GW have very much gone on a mono clan is an army approach with the orcs, which makes me a sad panda. One moment. Still thirsty.
Is that Chinese?
Yes, it is. Okay, and then what they've done is they've done some rule balancing on various different units. Now, they've done things like, one of the things I really, really like, they've changed the Shuriken cannon, Splinter cannon, from just being a more shot version of. That's what they. So, Splinter. They've changed Splinter weapons quite a bit. So before it was just strength dash wounds on a 4+ if you're unless you're a vehicle, in which case 6+. What they've done now is they've given them an actual strength and an AP and a damage, the usual set, and then they have a special rule that says non-vehicle units get wounded on a 4+ or a 2+, depending on what it is. So the Shuriken cannon, the Splinter cannon, you could still fire that at a big vehicle and it will still do more damage because it's a cannon. It's better AP. It's 2 damage. It's got some more punch, but it still only really works on infantry. So that I like. But you can, as a last resort, fire it at. You can, as a last resort, fire it at vehicles. In fact, I did do that in one of the previous games I played with mixed success. So I like what they've done to Shuriken. I like the fact the Shuriken cannon is now a distinctly different weapon. And I'm certain they've done that for game balancing points of perspectives, because the big gross units were Venoms for 65 points with 2 Shuriken cannons that could fly around, and at 18-inch range, they could rapid fire 12 shots. Gross, absolutely gross. Now, you can't advance and do anything like that, but you move and you're heavy, so you're not at -1 to hit, but you're 3 shots. But they're better, beefier shots. So I really like that. I really like that change. I think that's done very well. One of the other things they've done is they've made the. In fact, I'm going to start with the one that annoys me most: Hellions. I love my Hellions. They are cool, nasty space ninjas who are flying around on hoverboards, and I think they're great. And they used to do absolutely nothing, but I didn't care because I loved them. What they've done now is given them a massive stat boost and a massive points increase. And having played them, I think the points cost is right. It is appropriate. But they've changed the stats to make them survive. So for those of you not familiar, this is a Hellion. let's see what the webcam can make of that. Is it going to focus on it? Maybe not. So this is a Hellion, a scrawny Eldar on a skyboard, which now has the same strength and toughness. Sorry, the same toughness and wounds as that, and also the same toughness and wounds as that. They are now toughness 4 with 2 wounds, which there's no narrative reason for that whatsoever. It's, for me, I'm sorry, GW, I think it's very lazy rules writing. Because, okay, and I can see in the chat someone saying, oh, the extra wound could indicate how fast they are. Well, that's what invulnerable saves were before. The idea with these is if you hit them, they're still, it's just hitting basically a naked Eldar. And you hit it with a las gun, it dies 50% of the time. In giving them 2 wounds and toughness 4, they've turned them into Primaris Marines without the armor. And that's if you actually land the hit on them, they've got the same toughness and wounds as a Primaris Marine. And I can't reconcile that in my head. I don't like that. They could have come up with rules where against shooting attacks, they had a 3+ invulnerable save. I'd have had absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. I had a situation in one of the games I've played where I had the Hellions turn up, they attacked something, and then the next turn they were out in the open. Oh, I know GW are trying to sell more of them. I totally get that. But they could have achieved a massive power increase without carving the narrative in half, without breaking the narrative. It's like, okay, if you actually land a blow on one of these things, they are they're as hard as a Space Marine or an Orc Noble. No, make it harder to land the blow. Give them minuses to hit. Give them invulnerable saves. That actually represents it. So the situation where I then had, it was a, I won't tell you what the unit was because I'll give away what the army was, but it was a huge number. It was a large number of strength 3 shots against them. My instant thought was, do you know what? It's all right. They've landed. They've done me some damage. I'm just going to fill them full of holes because I can see them and they're now stood right in front of me. Oh wait, no, I can't because I'm going to wound them like Space Marines and they'll die like Space Marines. So I cannot reconcile that with the narrative in my mind. And I find it very lazy writing. I'm sorry, but I do. Hello, Three Shades. Welcome to the party. Great to have you with us. Okay, thank you. Crimson is now giving me a big pile of questions, which I will go through. I haven't got a bike model with me. I meant to get one. They make them the same as bikes, but the bikes are huge in comparison. The bikes are huge in comparison, and the bikes are only 10 points. They're 17 points. Also, hi. Yeah, so I am not a fan of that. The other thing I'm not a fan of is most of the melee weapons in this book are now AP -1. It's like saying we don't want armor to be a thing. We don't want Space Marines who get hit to survive. We want it to be much more likely that they're not going to survive. The sharpened fruit knife, the Hekatari knife it's the same as that one. The Hekatari knife that the witches carry now has the same armor penetration power as an autocannon and a heavy bolter. There's no integral consistency. Now, I like the rule they have come up with, the Blade Masters rule, I think it's called. Where is it? Blade Artists. If you roll a 6 to hit, you get -1 off your armor pen. Okay, I like that. I like the fact that they've found the joint in the armor and they've hamstrung them, or they've cut a vital power cord or something like that. I can live with that. But you make the basic fruit knife as hard hitting as a force staff at a power maul, you're making a mockery of the thing that has armor. You're basically saying that units that don't have armor, that have low armor, we want to bypass them entirely, and things that have armor, they just don't die quick enough, so we'll get rid of them. We'll get rid of the armor by making all the stats harder. Without any, for me, without any real, and this is where the salt's coming, without any real justification for it, narratively speaking. The racks have got the same. They've got an extra 1 on their AP. The Mandrakes always had -1 on theirs, and that's now, it's still -1, but then they're made out of shadow. They're meant to pass between realities. Can pass through armor just as easily as a fruit knife or a rusty saw. Racks are still a... Rack blades, -1. Melee, poison weapon 4+, -1. Sorry, Aries, you were saying racks are AP 0. No, they're... yeah, they're not. But according to this copy I've got, unless I'm misreading it. Sorry, but I would turn the page around and show you, but I don't think GW like me doing that. Yeah, it's now pretty much across the board. They've made one army narratively harder, and then they're increasing the power of all the other armies to counter it out. Like you just said, you might as well have just not bothered. You might as well have just not bothered. And that brings me on to the Darklands. So there is a question here. What do you think about the new Darklands stats? Thank you, Crimson. Thank you, whoever it was. Can't see it. That's the purpose of having them written down. I don't need to see them. But thank you, whoever it was. So I like the fact that the Darklands is now 3 plus D3 damage, or is it minimum 3? Either way, it's sort of like 3 to 6 damage. But what that means is, given most vehicles have something in the region of 10, thank you, Aries, D3 plus 3, so between 4 and 6, the most vehicles have in the region of 10 to 13, 10 to 12, 13 wounds. Which means that if you're hitting them with lances, to absolutely kill them, you've got to only hit them and wound them 3 times. If you're really lucky, twice. If only if only there was another way of representing the fact that the majority of vehicles, you kill them after 3 hits. Like hull points back in 7th ed. It's prevalent in 9th ed that the extreme highs and the extreme lows get chopped out of the rule set to create that band in the middle of predictability that I think is to balance the competitive game. And before I... thank you, Crimson, just writing the names on the things. Thank you. I don't want anyone to think this is me saying that I don't think the competitive game should have competitive balance in it. I absolutely do. I think the competitive game, being as tight on the rules and as balanced as it can be, is a really, really good thing for the competitive game. But I also think it would be really good for the narrative game if the rules in some way reflect the narrative and the stats in some way reflect the narrative, if they gave equal consideration to that, so both sides of the coin are happy. Because they aren't making me happy at the moment. They're making me want to not play my Drukhari. They really are. I don't know how I'm going to use those Hellions now. I look at them and I think, no, I just can't. They're just wrong. Because they get shot at with puny guns and they get hit centre mass and they don't die. So it makes me really sad. It makes me really sad. What else did we have? We have all these weapons being AP -1, more or less across the board. Someone asked about the incubi. I hadn't noticed a massive upstat for the incubi. Unless I misremember, that upstat came in the Phoenix Rising book, where your basic clave does... when they first introduced the incubi, the thing they were good at was killing Marines in one blow. And I think they've stayed true to that. They've scaled the incubi damage to make it so that they can basically... these guys are headsmen, they're decapitators, so they can kill a Marine in one blow, just off with its head. I don't have a problem with that. I like the fact they can still do that. In the 9th Ed book, after the Primaris had got all their buffs, I had seen incubi fighting Primaris, and they kill like 2. You get like you get enough hits to kill 3, but they've got 2 wounds, so 1 dies and another one just stands there going, ow, ow my neck, and then staving the head in because they're in the doctrine with the additional minus and salt, pouring on the salt. So I like the flavor that they've got with many of these vehicles. I like the with many of these units. I mean, the bombers, and the fighters. I love the variety of weapons and the choice of missiles. They've done a good job. I like things like the shock prow and the splinter axe. They're really usable now, and the chain snares and the grizzly trophies. They all get to do what the narrative says they do. So I really like that. The Talos are nice and chunky, but not ridiculously so. They've made all the weapons usable. It comes back to the balancing, so I like that. The Scourges on paper are very, very good. It's just my Scourges can't kill a single thing. So my antipathy for Scourges comes not from the book, but from my models who were going to find themselves in a mincer. Yeah, the Reavers, I'm pleased with what they've done. I'm glad they've given the Witches lots of attacks, because having Witches with 1 attack on the profile doesn't work for me. These are sort of nippy, jumpy, flurry of blows, which is I thought, oh yes, this is great. They're what AP now? And so that panda. So they can take on it. The thing with Eldar, right, is this book, the Craftworld books, they've all got different units for different purposes. And it feels like the direction of travel is to make every unit good at everything, so that you don't have specialism. And, if it's a witch cult, it must be able to be good at this and must be able to be good at that. It's no good if you're only able to kill hordes. Well, my witch cult fights against hordes, and that's the reason why I've taken incubi with my witch cult, because they're there for the more heavily armored targets. They know they can't take them down. They hire mercenaries. But no, that's not the direction of travel of this codex. So that's the codex, or my thoughts on the codex. Right, I've got to finish a massive stack of questions. Thank you, Crimson. My thoughts on the upgraded Gin Blade and Bloodglaive. One moment, caller. Da, 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 da. Gin Blade. I didn't notice it when I read it being particularly upgraded. I can't find it. Here it is, the Gin Blade. +1 strength, -3 AP, 3 damage, 2 additional attacks. Yeah, I mean, it makes the Archon quite tasty in a fight. How many attacks are they giving the Archon? 5. 8 attack Archon. No, 7 attack Archon. Doing a potential 21 damage. I don't think they needed to upgrade both. Let's just say that. I think that's a bit... The end of the fight phase, suffers a mortal wound if you roll a 1. Yeah, I like the fact that Gin Blade eats its soul. I think that's fitting. Okay, that makes the Archon monsters now. The Archite Glaive, I assume that's what was meant by the Blood Glaive, as opposed to the special weapon that the... Oh no, the Witch Cut. Of course, the Red Group do get the Blood Glaive. The Blood Glaive. 3 damage. That's on 6 attacks, 3 damage. It's fairly excessive.
Very smelly dog.
It's I have very little sense of smell, which I'm
just
guessing is just as well right now, I think. Yeah, I mean, they make them tank carvers. They make them dreadnought killers and tank carvers, which for me, that's what the dark weaponry is about. The dark lancers are about. Yeah. I think it's so. I think it's so you can have a high power character from any of the particular things, which I'm not sure I like. Thoughts on the Incubi buff? Talked about that one. Yeah, we touched on orcs. War is usually many clans and the one big war boss. Absolutely, that's how I've been playing my orcs and how I play them on the channel in the narrative games. I don't bother with the, I've had to take 6 patrols, therefore it's cost me 10 command points. I just say this is one army, and that's just the way it is because that's how orcs are meant to be. So yeah, shame they didn't apply to orcs, but I don't envisage that they will. I don't think they'll see a need for it. Fabius Balg already talked about. Where does all my knowledge come from? Oh, we've talked about that. Have you read Lucas the Trickster? A lot of Drukhari fluff in there. No, I have not. I will. Thank you, Stephen. It says Stephen on here now. Thank you, Crimson. I will add that to my Audible queue. Thank you, Lucas the Trickster. Don't slap the thing near the microphone, Paul. That's a stupid thing to do. Talked about the other creatures. Then from Paladin. Don't know my Space Wolf lore. Have blood claws gone through augmentation? I think... I'm not certain what it is. They used to be basically scouts in power armor. They had the black carapace to interface with the power armor, but not the discipline that a full Grey Hunter would have. So, yeah, I'm guessing there's a thing about them having 2 wounds. Yeah. Thoughts on Gabriel Seth and the Flesh Tearers as a whole? Well, that question, I don't know much about the Flesh Tearers. That question has been asked in the Discord by a channel member in the live stream topic stream. So I'm going to swat up on that and talk about that in one of the members' live streams coming up. So I'm going to pass on that one for today because that's a future topic and it's quite a way off Drukhari. Speaking of Drukhari, I can't think of anything specific I've forgotten. I mean, every time I've done one of these things, I have thought afterwards there are specific things that I have forgotten. So I am sure there are things I've forgotten, but I can't remember that I've forgotten them right at this particular minute in time. And if you followed that, I'm surprised. But by popular request, I'm going to finish on a lobster. Just the one, though, because I can't reach the blue one from here. She's taking a selfie of it. She's taking a picture. And the hat is too far away to put either on the lobster or under the lobster. So, but the nice thing with the lobster hat is it does keep your ears nice and warm. And it's already on Discord. English. Watching you. Now, remember, I'm not a performing monkey. However, if you're very good, there might be a treat at the end.
It's just, it wasn't over your eyes and it looked much better like that.
It fell off. Okay, that's good. But
It's
yeah.
very soft.
It is.
Your
I like my
lobster is
lobster.
very soft.
I have a very soft
And it
lobster.
matches my top. Your lobster matches. No, your lobster matches. No. It's
Sorry,
your
what-
lobster.
What was it
I
everyone
don't want
said
your
earlier?
nits. It's wonderful. No! Don't do it. Don't do it.
Now she knows what happens next time she badgers me for the lobster.
You love it. Look, you see, Will's fist bumping you. There you go.
Okay, so I hope you all enjoyed that. I struggled a little bit with flow in the middle, for which I apologise. And oh god,
it's wonderful.
Discord is going lobster crazy. For those of you who want to know how to get into the Discord, it's one of the perks of level 2 channel membership. And at the moment, the entire members lounge thread is taken up with various pictures of me with lobsters on my head. Red lobsters, blue lobsters, lobsters in hats. It's all about lobsters. I do like lobsters. This particular lobster here, this one's been cooked because they're blue until they only go red when you cook them. So this one's dead, you know. It's a dead lobster.
They're made for life, lobsters.
What? They didn't even stop for biscuits?
No, forever. Can you imagine that?
Be exhausted. Oh God. Right.
They may need to rehydrate.
I would say I'll leave with some dignity intact, but that ship has effing sailed. So thank you for joining me, and thank you for bearing with me, and I will see you good folks in the next one. Bye for now.